I was told I have cancer and only 2 years to live. I told my husband's family what the doctor had just told me in the hospital's phone booth. I expected that they wouldn't say harsh words to a woman who had been told she had only a few years to live, but I was wrong.
Yay! I will get life insurance then.
My husband's family was very happy to hear the news. I don't usually get angry, but when I heard those words, I lost my temper and went back to my parents' house. 3 years later, I received a call from my angry husband's family. It's too late for you to find out now. My name is Natalie. Ever since I was a little girl, I was chubby and the quiet type, so I found it difficult to get along with the people around me. I was often bullied and had no friends, so I spent most of my school days studying. In junior high school, I was bullied in such a way that the unpopular student had to confess his feelings to me and go out with me. Of course, I once tried to change myself by going on a diet, but no matter what I tried, it didn't work and I gave up. I tried all kinds of diets, but none of them seems to work. I tried things like supplements with the money I earned from my part-time job, but they all failed. At home, my mother was divorced and she was raising me as a single mother, so I could not talk to her about my problems at school. I did not want to cause unnecessary worry to my mother, who was doing her best to raise me by herself. She would ask me about school, but I would always lie and say that I was having a good time with my friends. However, I was able to get pretty good grades, probably because I worked so hard on my studies in such an environment. With this, I might be able to get a good job and repay my mother. Thinking that, I desperately went to job interviews at famous companies. I eventually got a job offer from one of those famous companies and started working right after graduating from college. I made some good friends at the company, started living on my own while I sent money home to my mother. 3 years after I joined the company, I was asked to go to a group blind date for the first time in my life. There I met my current husband, Logan Lopez, who was a handsome man. Logan is the opposite of me, as he was the mood maker at the blind date and popular with the girls. In other words, if I'm the shadow, he is the light. Whenever I was asked about anything at the blind date, I would blurt out a simple answer and make sure I didn't stand out. I couldn't get used to the atmosphere, and halfway through blind date, I said I was going to get some fresh air and went out of the restaurant. While I was taking in the nice air, Logan came up to me there and we had a conversation. This is how I met my husband. I heard girls keeping an eye on me from that day on, but I wasn't afraid because Logan was there and he protected me. Not many years after we started dating, we got married and Logan became my husband. But I had no idea at the time that our days of happiness would turn into a nightmare.
Excuse me, Natalie. I've always told you to finish cleaning by morning, haven't I?
It's impossible to work efficiently with a body like that. My mother-in-law, who is sarcastic, and my sister-in-law, who makes fun of me. These two people never get bored of making offensive remarks to me every day. Since I got married, I have been living with my husband and mother-in-law, and I pay for all the living expenses and utilities. My sister-in-law comes to visit our house occasionally to make fun of me. Our house is newly built, which I bought for a happy married life with my husband. It is the opposite of the happy life I had envisioned though. My husband does not pay for anything related to our living, and he comes home late at night. Even though he was aware of what my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were saying to me, he never showed any signs of helping me, unlike when we dated. Ever since we got married, my life has been like this every day. Perhaps because of this stress, my health has not been so good recently. I was sluggish, feverish, sometimes had difficulty breathing, and was frequently anemic, which was terrible. But every time I asked my mother-in-law about going to the hospital, she always said the same thing.
You can't take care of yourself because of your sloppy figure. Do you really need to go to the hospital?
I was treated the same way at home as when I was a student, even at my age. It is very hard to find a place and time to rest in the house I live in. My husband, who used to always help me, has now joined my mother-in-law and sister-in-law's side. There is no place for me anymore. I thought that every day, so I didn't dare to rebel. I spent money, worked, and lived for my husband's family, not for myself. I realized along the way that he had married me as a money grabber because my salary was very good. I was honestly angry, but I didn't have the courage to divorce him and go back to my parents' house, so it has stayed this way. Even though I knew that my husband was involved with several women and that my mother-in-law had a gambling habit, I pretended to ignore it. I had all the evidence I needed just in case, but my lack of courage prevented me from revealing it. However, if the opportunity arose, I would be able to proceed smoothly with this evidence. With that in mind, I kept the evidence in a safe place. The stress of my daily life continued to increase day by day, and I finally collapsed at work. I found myself in a hospital bed with an IV in my arm. I did not know why I was in the hospital. Soon after I woke up, a nurse came to me, followed by my doctor.
Are you feeling all right?
Yes, I'm fine.
Have you felt any physical discomfort anywhere recently? Tiredness or nausea, for example?
In response to my doctor's question, I tell him that I had been sluggish, feverish, sometimes had difficulty breathing, and was frequently anemic. The doctor told me that I would be kept in the hospital for a few days and left. The nurse said that after I collapsed at work, my boss found me right away and called an ambulance. The people at work have been very good to me, so I must thank them later. But to be honest, I was kind glad I didn't have to go home while I was in the hospital. No mother-in-law to nitpick and be sarcastic every day, and no sister-in-law to badmouth me. That night, I had a good night's sleep for the first time in years. However, I had a bad cough at the breakfast and did not feel very comfortable. Just the day after I was brought to the hospital, I began to notice more and more discomfort in my body, and I talked to my doctor about it. The doctor said he would extend my hospital stay and do a detailed examination. At this time, I had no idea what was happening to my body. 2 days later, when the test were to take place, I began to feel my muscles weaken. The doctor told me that I should stay in the hospital for a month. I hadn't contacted anyone yet, but thought I should tell my family, so I decided to call home.
Hello?
Hello, this is Natalie. I'm calling because I'm actually going to be in the hospital for a month.
Oh, really? It's so peaceful without you. Take care. Just please make sure to do the usual payments.
My mother-in-law answered the phone and immediately hung up with only that when I told her I was going to be in the hospital. Well, I expected this, so I was not surprised. While being sarcastic, she asked me to make sure I paid the bills. I wondered what they would do if I didn't pay the rent, utilities, and other bills. I also happened to find out in the process of cleaning up the house that my mother-in-law actually owed a lot of money. She had been putting off the repayment of that debt for so long that it had gotten to the point where she asked me to make the payment. It was shortly after we got married, so she wasn't that bad. But after I promised to make this payment, her attitude changed drastically. Looking back, I really wonder why I made that promise. However, not knowing what she would say if I rebelled now, and not having the courage to rebel either, I had no choice but to listen to my mother-in-law. Then, 2 weeks after I was hospitalized, my doctor came to my room.
Good morning, Miss Lopez. I'm here to tell you the result of the test.
Thank you very much. How are they?
It is a very serious matter, but you have cancer.
For a moment, my thoughts stopped. It would be hard to accept being told out of the blue that I had cancer. However, I had to accept it considering the sudden abnormality in my body. A real disease is where a healthy body gets worse and worse. At first, I thought it was just fatigue or a cold, but the true name of a disease cannot be determined without an examination. No one would know. The doctor told me that I had already reached a critical point, that I should expect to live only a few years, roughly 2 at the most. That's what I was told. 2 years to live. That sounds like a very long time, but it is very short. What shall I do now? That might be the first thought of those who have been told their life expectancy. In my case, I regretted my life first. I was harassed and ridiculed for a long time because of my body shape, but I was blessed with a good job. I thought I met someone nice and that it would change my life, but that was short-lived. I had more problems I had to face at home, and my life was the same as before. My life is too painful to tell. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Can I stay at home for the rest of my life?
As long as you come to the hospital regularly and take your medicine every day, that would be possible.
The doctor allowed me to stay at home, so I was returned home in a few days. But I had to tell my family that I had been told I only had few years to live. Even my mother-in-law, who had been so rude to me, would probably be a little worried about me. I made a phone call thinking that, but of course, that never happened. I have to tell you, I have been diagnosed with cancer and have only 2 years to live.
Yay! I will get life insurance then. I have to think about what I'm going to buy with that.
What? My mother-in-law seemed very happy to hear that I had so little time left to live. My sister-in-law, who was listening from behind, was also so pleased that I could hear it from the other end of the phone. Why don't these people have even a piece of a good heart? And then I heard my husband's voice, which sounded like he must have just returned.
Hey, you are home. Natalie said she has only 2 years to live.
Seriously?
My husband, whom I thought married out of love for each other, laughed about it too. Why did I fall in love with such a person? Many things were going round and round in my head. I had reached my limit. The moment I felt that, my blood rushed to my head, and for the first time, I snapped. Your relative has been given a life expectancy. How can you people react like that? For your information, I will not returning home from now on.
You don't have to come back, but make sure you pay the bills, okay?
I am left with silence in the quiet hospital phone space. Tears welled up in my eyes as I still held the phone to my ear. I felt frustrated, strained, and sad. These emotions were flooding my eyes. I wondered if this is how families are supposed to be, Why do I always end up like this? I must change. I can't be the same as I am now. I went from feeling sad to feeling like I finally had a chance to change. I had always listened to what others said and had never been able to move forward because I didn't have confidence in myself. If I don't change now, I will just repeat these bad memories forever. By expressing my anger toward others for the first time, I finally started to move forward. I would change. With this, I returned to my parents' house on the day I was discharged from the hospital. I'm home. Mom, I'm sorry I came home. I was about to cry when I saw my mother's face. She hugged me slowly and welcomed me back home. She's my favorite, most trusted, and respected person. I was crying, but I told her what had happened at home and explained every detail. I also told her that after I collapsed at work, I was hospitalized, and after tests, I had only 2 years to live. My mother was shocked and saddened by the news. However, she strongly told me to have hope for life and not to give up. I intend to move forward so that I have no regrets. But of course, I don't want to end my life in 2 years. I have packed all the evidence of my husband's family, his affairs, and my mother-in-law's debts in my hospital bag. I am glad I was vigilant about these things, because they could have been thrown away while I was gone. My mother also seems to be willing to help me consult with lawyers and others, so we decided to work out the sequence of events and what to tell them beforehand. And then, there was the life insurance they were so happy about. I looked it up on the internet and found out that it is possible to change the beneficiary. So I decided to make my mother the beneficiary of this insurance. Since I have no children, this would be the best way. And from the next day, I was busy. After a while, I returned to work and spent time with my mother and friends, making the most of each day. In the meantime, I did not hear from my husband's family, which probably means that they too are spending their time now. I realized that 3 years had already passed. I had 2 years to live, but I continued to go to the hospital and take my medicine without forgetting, and I was able to live this long. The symptoms of my cancer are under control, and my body is recovering to the surprise of the doctor. I wonder what would happen after I was told you didn't have long to live, but I'm happy for you, Natalie. And you look so beautiful, my mother said, smiling at me with tears in her eyes. While I have been busy since then, I've also done a good job of improving myself because I knew I had to change. Because I was living a healthy life without stress from my husband and family, I succeeded in losing weight and changed so drastically that it was hard to tell who I was. Even at work, people were talking about how much I had changed, and I was well prepared with my lawyer. Suddenly, the phone rings. The caller is my husband.
What are you doing right now? Our house is in a lot of trouble. What happened to the insurance money?
My husband calls me and starts talking about debt collectors coming to their house and complaining about the fact that electricity and gas were cut off today. He says that his mother has a headache because of the debt collectors, and then she has been lying to them that the debt was created by me. Why should I care about the people who have been laughing at me?
What the hell?
My husband sounds a mixture of surprise and anger at my aggressive remarks, and from his point of view, I guess he wants to say,
Who do you think you are when I went to the trouble of taking you in, when you didn't have anyone to take care of you?
In the past, I would have been scared to death the moment my husband called me, but I'm not like that anymore. Also, I won't pay the rent for you anymore. If you don't move out of the house by the end of the day, You will be evicted.
You!
My husband snapped at me on the phone. But then, I hear my sister-in-law getting angry from far away as well. I had him put the phone on speaker and explained from the beginning to end. About the debt, about my husband's affair, and the numerous ways they have harassed me. I tell my husband's family everything I had never been able to tell them. My husband and sister-in-law listened to what I had to say, and didn't say anything after that. They probably had nothing they could say back. And all of this had already been discussed with the lawyer, and that the lawyers would soon go to my husband to proceed with the divorce.
Natalie, I'm sorry for everything I have done, so please forgive me. I can't do anything without you.
It's too late to realize that now. Besides, it's my money that you need, not me, right?
That's not true. The truth is that I was grateful, but my mother and sister threatened me.
My sister-in-law snapped at my husband when she heard that statement. Even I could tell right away that the statement was a lie. I was amazed at how he could lie without hesitation. I'm sure my husband will get the cold shoulder from his family after I'm done talking. My in-laws were a mess. This is what they deserved. Nothing you can say will change my mind. Please proceed with the divorce with my lawyer.
Natalie.
I pressed the end call button. My fingers were trembling, and I feel my strength drain from my body all at once. For the first time, I have the courage to take the first step toward the person who has been harassing me and end things on my own. Tears well up in my eyes as I realize that I have done so. My mother is right there beside me as I was talking on the phone. She hugged me and praised me for my hard work. Her kindness filled my heart, and I cried in my mother's arms. The tears were not tears of sadness, but tears of joy that I had changed. It was clear to me that at this moment, I was no longer the same person I was before, and my consciousness faded away as I left these words behind. Thank you, Mother. I woke up 3 days later. My body was equipped with various machines, and thanks to the oxygen mask, I could barely breathe, but I could not speak. I kind of understood the situation, and overheard my mother and the doctor, who was sitting near my bed.
This is probably her last moment.
Thank you for everything you have done, Doctor. Oh, I'm close. I was calm, as if I knew. Natalie, you've worked so hard. You did great. She looked with pain in her eyes, as she squeezed my hand as hard as she could, and patted me on the head. I wanted to say something to her, but the hardest part was that I couldn't even do that. I couldn't even move my body freely anymore. I wanted to express my gratitude directly to my mother, who was closest to me, and helped me in so many ways. Natalie, after that, we were able to get a divorce for you. It was because you worked so hard. My mother tells me many stories as she cries, but even her words are becoming more and more distant from me. I can only hear the sound of a machine surrounding me. I felt my consciousness fading away, and I knew it was the end. I squeezed my mother's hand back with my last bit of strength, and I mouthed, "Thank you." God gave me a chance to change, and I properly accomplished that chance. So I don't have a single regret. If there's a next life, I would like to live as myself again.